Good afternoon. I'm Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3. This is the regular meeting for the Jefferson County PUD Board of Commissioners. It is Tuesday, February 4th, 4 p.m. JPUD will be offering both virtual and online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is otherwise provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak. If you're calling in, use *6 to mute, and unmute is and then *9 to raise your hand if you wish to speak. I'm going to ask for a quorum call here. I'm Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3. Gentlemen, can you hear us?
Jeff Randall,
Yes.
District 1.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner, District 2.
Thank you. We have a full board, so I'm calling us to order. Next item on the agenda is the review of the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections? Seeing and hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Move that the agenda be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, agenda is, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The agenda is accepted. With that, we'll move on to item number 4, which is public comment. The public comment period allows members of the public to comment, limited to 3 minutes each, on any items not specifically listed on the agenda or for items listed on the consent agenda. Prior to any public comment, members of the public must first be recognized by the president or the designated chair of the meeting and are not permitted to disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct and fair progress of the commission's meeting. After an initial warning by the president or the designated chair of the meeting, individuals who intentionally violate these guidelines through actual disruption of the commission meeting will be dropped from the meeting. And with that, I will ask, are there any questions or any comments from the public? Again, it'd be nice if you could state your name and the district that you reside in. Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Becker. I'm in District 2. I want to talk about the project to bring the Eagle Ridge water system up to meet the state standards. At our last meeting, we were told that the Washington State Department of Health had approved the project and that PUD had filed an application with the Jefferson County Public Works Department for a permit to begin construction. In contacting the Public Works Department, I've been advised that PUD has not filed an application with them for a permit. And in talking to the Washington State Department of Health, I find that while they have approved the project report, the PUD has not filed an application for construction, which is required by the WAC. We also discussed the issue of air in the water lines, a problem that we've had there for many years. And the board seemed to think that it wasn't a board problem. I have a copy of an email that was sent to Francis Roski, May 9th, 2024. Where Mr. Bill Graham, the resource manager, tells us that the air pumps or the air valves have been purchased and on hand, and we will request permission from management to install them, hopefully soon. I'll keep it on the top of my list of action items when I brief Kevin next. Those valves have never been installed, and we continue to have problems in people's homes where they're burning out their equipment.
You still have 30 seconds, sir, if you want.
I think that's enough for today.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I think I'll defer this to the general manager if he wants to discuss this now, or if you want to wait till general manager report.
We'll wait till general manager.
And we'll get everybody else out of the way, so if they don't want to hang around, they don't have to sit through the discussion on that. So are there any other hands raised? I see Philip Stover, right? There we go, Phil.
Hi, Philip Stover, District 1. I noticed that in the cold weather, the last few days, that our voltage in the morning is pretty low. 117 this morning on a circuit that didn't have anything else on it, just connected to our power panel. It's 119 right now. So I just would like to hear maybe during the staff report whether the Hastings substation equipment is operating within normal bounds or it's having some difficulties, or any other comments related to the voltage levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stover. I think that'd be interesting information for Commissioner Randall. It's his district as well, so it'd be good to hear about that in the report. Any other persons wishing to comment? Last call. Seeing none, we will close public comment at this point and move on to manager and staff reports. GM Street, would you like to take on the Eagle Ridge?
We're gonna start on our safety minute. So.
Thank you. So Jeff Dodd, safety manager with PUD, and Dan, I attended the fire chiefs meeting and we got a nice kudos I wanted to pass along to the commissioners and to staff here today from the fire chiefs meeting, thanking us for our quick and prompt response to the car versus pole incident that occurred on Oak Bay Road Friday of last week. It was a great example of all the agencies that were responding, and there were multiple working together to make safe public response. And on the PUD side, just for the commissioners, another great example of our departments working together. There were many departments on that scene, broadband, warehouse facilities, line crew, of course, was this incident command, so to speak. They were in charge of the job. But communications team and myself was out there for quite some time, and good coordination, great safety culture in play and in action at a job site that was a complicated job site. You know, there was lines leaning out over the roadway. We had a broken pole. So a great example. Just wanted to share that with the commissioners. The only other piece of information, changing subjects, is I am preparing, and I wanted to make the commissioners aware because you'll be seeing some email from me about this. We're preparing for our March workplace violence training, which includes an active shooter training. And this is consistent with, I think I touched on this last meeting, but this is consistent with what the hospitals and the schools have done. So similar training, but it is a little shocking for some employees and can be a little dramatic. So I just wanted to share it with you today. It's part of just raising the awareness around the topic of active shooters that may come into the workplace or in any walks of our life, whether you're in school, in the hospital, or at a public event, and just how the appropriate response. And so you'll see communications from myself about that topic. We will also be sending out to our people leaders, some talking points so they can discuss it in their team meetings, and then an all employee email. And then finally the training in mid-March. So look forward to that coming, but I just want to make you aware that that's something that we'll see from me in the coming next week.
Thanks, Jeff. Great report. And the communication is great internally and externally. As like you said, I witnessed it at the Chiefs meeting. They were very thankful and appreciative of everything that happened in the field. And so again, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff? All right.
Okay, Jose, can you give us an update from HDR, what they've turned into the county, and tell us where we're at, please?
They turned in the construction permit to CDC. Once there is a walkthrough, they will continue with final plans and we'll move forward from that. We're waiting on CDC to come back to us.
I see Commissioner Randall has his hand up.
Yeah, so Paul with Eagle Ridge brought up Public Works, and we might have used that term last time, but it's actually, Jose, it's not a Public Works permit, it's a Department of Community Development permit, is that correct? Okay, is that something that's online that a interested member of the public can log on and see? Do you know if they keep track of that or not?
I'm not sure.
Okay, and then could you address the other question that Paul brought up, which was I can't remember if it was Department of Health or the state construction permit. Is that something that you're aware of or we're supposed to get?
We have correspondence with state engineer that approved the project and a file to keep all construction documents for them and for us. Where we're at with that.
So to your awareness, we're in compliance with the state. We don't need further approvals. That's your understanding?
My understanding, that is correct.
Okay. And I guess lastly, Paul brought up this question about
Comment on that?
Could you wait, sir? We'll get back here in a second.
about air, sounds like air bleeders or something that could be put somewhere. I don't know if that's behind, if the thought was behind the customer meter on the customer system, if we know anything about that or can comment on that, or if that was some other kind of equipment somewhere else in the system.
The only way to get the air out of the system, Jeff, is to drop the pumps down where we're gonna put them. That's the solution. There's no other solution that can be worked out, to my knowledge.
Okay, so the email from Bill is not something you're aware of and not something that we were planning to offer.
Not aware of the email. HDR did the engineering. This is the solution to fix the water pressure and the air.
Okay, and do we have any further updates, Jose or Kevin, on when that work will actually be done?
As soon as we get a permit, we'll go out to bid.
Okay, and then I think we asked this last time. It sounds like it's a couple of months or something before. I think, did we say June the last time? Is that was kind of that the time frame that you were estimating?
Yes, through not knowing what the process, all that, we just don't know.
Okay, and I just want to respond quickly to Paul too. It's like I think the commissioners are concerned with this issue, so I appreciate you coming with your questions and with your updates about where things are at. So thank you.
Commissioner Collins.
Just to be clear, the permit we're waiting for needs to come from the CDC, the DCD.
Correct.
From the county.
From the county.
From the county, yes. All right, thank you.
So Paul, we don't do back and forth normally. I want to get staff. I want staff to weigh in and then we'll
Can I
come.
just make one
I'll
comment?
come back to you. We'll let staff address now. Kevin, is there anything else in discrepancies between what we've said or done versus what, there was a handout that was given to us by Paul, so.
I somewhat take exception to this. Staff has worked hard with HDR. We've met with the state multiple times. Staff is trying to get this project done. It's taking us time to get it. We can't just go do a project like this. We have to get permits. We have to get drawings. We have to do our due diligence. It takes time.
So I guess my question is now is the communication between staff and the board, has it been as good as it should have been? And as far as staff with Eagle Ridge, are we communicating well here? Because it seems like we're getting a lot of conflicting opinions or ideas on terms and, how the timeline is playing out. So just trying to make sure that we're communicating. It's not indictment. Just trying to make sure that we're communicating well here between the community, between staff, and with the board.
I believe we've communicated well to the board. We've tried to keep Eagle Ridge into the, what's going on. So I think we are doing what we need to.
Okay, so I'm going to give Paul one more chance. I just want to make sure we covered all the bases of everything that he brought forward versus what the board's understanding was. All three commissioners have weighed in, staff have weighed in. Is there anything else that Paul stated earlier on or that was in the handout? Obviously, the two commissioners online didn't get the handout of, it's an email chain basically about some of the issues that Paul brought up. So I just want to make sure before I give Paul one more bite at the apple here that we've touched on everything.
My
Anybody
knowledge,
else?
there may be something brought up that we're not aware of.
Okay, so again, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, there's one more thing. This is a document that was sent from the Department of Health to PUD approving the project report. And the document says, I may quote, next step, construction documents as defined in WAC 246-290 must be submitted and approved before this project may be constructed.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, I just wanted the commissioners that are online to hear what you had to say there because they don't have that in front of them unless you sent it. I don't know if I got an email with that information or not, so.
It's on the front of the subsequent email. This is the document that was sent directly from the state to PUD.
Yeah, I don't know if my fellow commissioners have had a chance to see that or not. So I want to make
No,
sure,
they have.
I just want to make sure they heard where you were coming from and why. So with that, I'm going to end the discussion on this topic unless staff has one more final thing to say. My thing would be for Eagle Ridge to stay in contact with staff and for staff to reciprocate and definitely be in contact so that we don't have any communication misunderstandings. Jeff and then Kevin, come back if you have.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing Paul say is he's citing a Washington Administrative Code requirement. I don't know if he requested emails from the PUD, if that's how he got it. I think that's all fine. And I think what the concern Eagle Ridge is expressing is they just don't want anything to hold up the project. So I'm hearing Paul saying, are we doing everything we need to do to make sure that this system is online and gets the approvals? So have we, I know we're kind of repeating ourselves here, have we submitted the construction documents, or if we're waiting for more info on the construction documents, are we going to comply with all the rules?
We have to comply with the rules because the state has to say we've done it correctly. HDR, there's a process to do this. Not only I, but Jose's been multiple meetings with the state representative for our area. We are doing everything we can as quick as we can to get this done. There's not a magic bullet here. I wish there was, but
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think, again, the residents at Eagle Ridge, Paul, stay in contact with staff, and I would hope that staff will reciprocate, and give them whatever information they need, and that we get this, if there's terminology, whose permit it was supposed to be, that we get that all squared away, that everybody's on the same page. With that, who's next up? I know Philip asked you a question, but if you have some other presentation. Thank you for attending, Paul.
Hastings substation voltage. So and I don't know if they've increased it or not, but we're increasing the voltage at the regulators at the substation. Trying to increase end of line voltage. Part of what our 4-year construction plan that we went over today with our FCS rate consultants was how to improve voltage to your area. So, and not just your area, Phil, throughout the system. So, right now, through the winter, you're probably gonna get around that 117 as the low. During the afternoon, you are gonna get a little bit higher. But with what we have in place today, through this winter, that's about the voltage you're gonna be receiving.
All right, he's shaking his head. You're muted, but we can see you shaking your head.
Thank you.
I guess, Kevin, as a follow-up, is that, I mean, 240 volts, 120 or 117 times 2 gets 234. What are kind of acceptable levels that equipment can run on without damage, or at least as far as the utility understands it?
So on utility, how things are supposed to work, Jeff, and they don't always work this way. 113 is the lowest voltage you can have. At the meter, we try to have at least about 116, but if we drop a little bit below that during the cold peaks, we're okay. But like I say, we are looking at solutions for not only getting through this winter, but how do we, with growth, get through next winter?
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is 113 is the bare minimum. That would be 226 volts, and preferably is 230, 116 or above, 232 or above. And so 117 is within kind of the parameters of normal.
And there's a small deviation. We measure at the meter base. Phil is metering in the house. And so you could be a little bit less in the house, but, yes, we're monitoring voltage in many places right now.
Next up.
Mike Bailey.
So I just wanted to update the commissioners because it's been a long time coming. It's been about 3 years. But yesterday afternoon, we finally got our RESP loan documents signed by RUS. So I will be reaching out to the 3 commissioners for them to stop by 193 Auto Street because we have to have wet signatures. We can't docu-sign them. We have to have the wet signatures so we can get the documents signed, sent back to Stacy, and I'm not going to try to say her last name, our bond counsel. So that way she can then send them off to RUS. So I just appreciate all the work that Joel's helped us with, Stacy, our bond counsel, has helped us with, and then just staff and the commissioners. But we finally got all the signed documents, so we'll be able to get those turned in and get our REST program going. We did hire. He started on Friday, an energy efficiency specialist who will help run that program for the PUD with Will's help, with Gene's help and stuff. So just wanted to let the commissioners know that we did finally get those documents signed by RUS, and we finally get to move forward. And yeah, this started back in 21. So we're 3-4 years into it. So just
So,
a quick update on that.
so on the RESP contract, with everything that's going on back east, is this something you want to get out the door tomorrow, or do we have all week? I mean, are you
have all-
concerned or?
We have all week. It's nothing that's where it's all approved. It's money, it's funds that cannot be pulled from anywhere. It's not one of the special programs that they had. It's an ongoing program, so the funding for it is not at risk. So yeah, just in the next couple of days, I'll reach out and have the commissioner stop by because some of it has to be notarized too. So I have to get it all, have some witnesses and make sure I have a notary available to get it done.
The reason I ask is I won't be able to do it. I'm leaving tonight, so I won't be able to do it till Friday. So
Okay.
I'm just asking time-wise if.
Yeah. No, we should be fine. It's just once I get everybody signed and then we'll get it. And I can get your signatures tonight, Dan, and then work
Okay.
on getting Jeff and Ken's
Okay.
after the meeting. But we just wanted to update the commissioners, let them know that we did finally get all that done.
And kind of a new one that Mike wasn't aware I was gonna ask him. what time are we set up for the 10th, the meeting with the state, or were they allowed?
Oh,
They come?
9 a.m. was what I
yeah,
got.
so we
Yeah.
did, so we do have 9 a.m. at February the 10th is going to be our exit conference with the state auditor's office for our 2023 accountability audit. It's all set.
State did agree
Yeah.
to the 9 o'clock. Good. Along those same meetings, on February 20th, there is an ICG meeting. So throw that on your calendar. And then next week, I am going to attend the NOAANET meeting in person. And Curtis is gonna be down in Spokane with me so that he can be introduced to the NOAANET group. I will also attend on the same day in the afternoon via Zoom, the Waputa managers meeting. There's some things going on so that I want to log into that meeting, even though it's remote, and hear about some updates with the managers meeting. And that is all I have for today.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? All right. With that, we will move on to the commissioner reports. Commissioner Collins, you'd like to go first?
Sure. So the 23rd of January, I had a meeting with Don McDaniel, met with the general manager on the 24th, attended the special Board of Commissioners meeting on the 30th, met again with the general manager on the 31st of January. Earlier today, met with the transition team. I will meet again with the general manager this Friday. Planning on attending the audit exit conference on the 10th. Looking forward to attending the Waputa meeting remotely from the 12th through the 14th. And we'll also meet early Friday morning, the 14th, with the general manager. And that is my report, brief as it is.
Thank you. Commissioner Randall?
Sure. So on the 22nd and 23rd, on the 22nd, I was in person in Olympia for the Energy Northwest meetings. I wasn't feeling well, so I had to come back and listened in to them the following day. And Dan may want to go into it in more detail, but a couple of things that jumped out for me was Bob Schutz during his CEO report reported on a groundbreaking of nuclear reprocessing fuel facility in the Tri-Cities, which was interesting. And their goal is to both Energy Northwest and this new facility, it's a commercial facility, is to provide a secure supply chain for nuclear power. And it would be the HALEU fuel that would be used by the, the new facility that's being proposed. And one of the interesting numbers they threw out was they estimate that when it's completed, they'll take spent fuel, reprocess it, and end up with 4% of the original material that was previously thought of as waste. And they're currently storing a lot of that spent fuel on a pad behind Columbia Generating Station. So that was interesting. It'll be years before that's ready, but that was very interesting. Other items that jumped out, the Energy Northwest has successfully hired their tribal liaison person. So they're more effectively coordinating with the tribes and the region, the efforts they're trying to take. And then let's see, on the 30th, I was at the special board meeting we had. Looking ahead, I've got a call with Kevin Street tomorrow. My meeting with the transition team is going to happen this Thursday. I'll be at the special PUD board meeting on the 10th. I'm going to fly to the NOAANET meeting in Spokane to be there in person. That'll be my first meeting. And then I'm planning to come back and be present for those Waputa meetings in Olympia. And that is my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, yeah, I was in and out of the meeting with some phone calls on at Energy. Might have heard some things that I didn't. I did hear that part of some of that presentation, Jeff, and it was pretty interesting to hear how effective and efficient that was going to be when it finally happens. So I did attend the Energy Northwest meetings on January 23rd and 24th. Dave McKenzie from Skamania PUD was elected to the executive board's inside director position. Is that right? I think that's right. Is that right, Jeff? Yeah.
That's correct.
I get still learning that inside, outside, and board of directors and all that. There's a whole lot of different titles there. So, officers of the board of directors were also selected. Jerry Osmussen was president. Sean Rothbaum, vice president. Clint Whitney was secretary, and Ken Hayes from Clallam was the assistant secretary. Former BPA deputy COO Marcus Harris took a position at Energy Northwest as their chief of executive projects. During his CEO report, Bob Schutz said that they were working with the State Commerce Department on accessing the $25 million budget proviso for the new nuclear SMR project. That funding needs to be spent by the end of the current fiscal year, which ends in June. If they can't come to terms and work out the disbursement of that as a lump sum, they may need to go back to the legislature to have them reappropriate those funds. Energy and Services and Development Vice President Greg Cullen spoke about more EV chargers going in, I think, in the Klickitat and Skamania County areas. He also talked about how the process to move the Amazon small modular reactor will work as that moves forward. And part of that process, the long play in that process is each member, us included as a member, will need to have its board supply a resolution showing their support to move forward on eventual final approval of the project. So, and I don't know what the timeline is for that final approvement deadline, but that's something that we'll need to be aware of, is that we will need a resolution from this board when they get to that stage of that process. The Energy Northwest Board approved SMR contracts worth several $1 million each for that Amazon project. At the Thursday meeting, Executive Board President John Saven talked about using a new format for Energy Northwest meetings beginning in March, but I saw an email yesterday. I think maybe they're looking at April now. And Jeff knows how they've worked in the past, but my take on it was that they were going to change the timing around so that they're going to have committee meetings scheduled in a way to allow more of the membership to attend those meetings rather than be tied up with the actual board meeting. So if I got that wrong, Jeff, you can feel free to correct me. That was the real crux of that. So they're looking at being more flexible for the attendees to be able to get more information, more granularity on what's going on at the committee level. On January 28th, I attended the Northwest Public Power Association Conference on Wildfires. There were sessions and panels on things from prevention to right-of-way and vegetation management, how to communicate, coordinate with local, state, and federal partners. There were some public policy and regulation discussions, wildfire insurance, and a whole lot of topics. They jammed a lot in that day. It was a pretty busy and pretty long day, but a lot of great information. One of the common themes throughout the conference was about having a public safety power shutoff policy. So that, again, I know we're working on a lot of things, and this is kind of going to come around to Jeff at some point. Well, no, okay. I'm not sure who all on staff will be involved with this, but the commission obviously has to sign off on something like that eventually. I know the county is working on its county-wide wildfire protection plan, and I know there's elements in that. So that's something we'll have to look at and discuss somewhere here in the near future. But that was something that came up a lot. So just out of curiosity, Kevin, who would that fall to then?
It ultimately falls to me, but it's an operational decision based on factors and how and where we can disconnect. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's a general plan because you don't know where the fire is going to start, what piece of equipment has to be opened. So,
So would it be a team here? Obviously legal counsel probably is involved. I mean, can you give us an idea? Because again, I think this is something that's coming our way in one way, shape, or form for insurance reasons or, liability or whatever, or the county's planning or whatever. Because at the fire chiefs, we did discuss this a little bit about how we would play in, because they're going after another grant, which I think I have later on in my report, but they're going after the next phase of grant on that. So we are going to be involved. So I'm just curious again, with the transition we have coming, that we lay as much groundwork here about what kind of a team and who should be involved with that.
It- In my past, it's a very small team. It really works through the dispatch people because they're the ones that can operate the reclosures, the line crew gets dispatched out to open up, air switches, that kind of stuff. So it's not okay, we're gonna shut your neighborhood off. It is based on, a lot of information.
Okay. Again, 30,000 foot at the moment, but it's something that's probably coming our way, like a lot of things that we know about, and probably some things we don't know about yet. So just putting that out there. There also were discussions about grant funding and cautionary tales of, the better approach. Consensus from a lot of entities was to be partnering with other entities rather than going it alone. So when it comes to grants, and maybe we have our own theories about that or not, but that was one of the things that came out of some of those discussions. It's safety in numbers maybe, or, reduces the risk per individual that's partaking in whatever grant you're going after. Because again, one of the other comments that came out of that on the funding, and I'm sure we found this out even at the state level, is, whoever's offering those NOFOs out there have a different idea about the project you're proposing than what maybe you do. So making sure you communicate with those entities that are giving that money out, that you're all on the same page of what exactly is your project is meant to do and accomplish, and how you're going to go about executing that. There were also good discussions on reclosure sensitivity settings during during high danger times of the year. Is that something we do, or do we not follow our reclosers in that sense? If we know that there's an area that,
We do more of a non-reclose setting than sensitivity. Sensitivity becomes more of a function of the relay. We would maybe have to maybe we will have to upgrade some relays to do some of the things that others are doing for the fire.
so the
safety.
long and short is that rather having a recloser keep kicking in and out that could lead more potentially to a fire, it kicks out. I mean, could you just a little bit of why that's important?
Non-reclose, during the summer, a lot of utilities are going non-reclose so that if the tree falls on the line, it opens the reclosure and you do not, close back in, because the close back in on the tree, huge arcs, there's flames everywhere with the tree on the line. So, that's one setting you can do, and we've used that in the past a little bit. The sensitivity settings, again, are more of a function of the capability of the relay itself. Some of our older transmission relays, you can't get a sensitive setting in them, but if we replace those relays, we can do some of that kind of work.
And I know this is kind of technical, but again, I think it helps if everybody hears this stuff, since I was the only one at the conference and I'm not really that technically oriented. At the end of the day, it makes sense to have this little bit of a discussion now, so some of the staff that are listening, or maybe even some of the public, can understand when we talk about these things in the future, why we're looking at these different things with the grid. What else was on there? And there was a little bit of talk about, how you can work with different types of poles and covered conductor wires, and, the challenges associated with hardening your grid in those ways. Again, a lot of things I'm sure staff might be looking at those types of things already behind the scenes. Next day, January 29th, I attended the NWPPA Power Supply Conference. Most of that session and those panels were the issues that we follow and hear a lot about at Public Power Council meetings, PNUC, and different places like that, WAPAG. Only without looking at them through the prism of BPA. The discussions they had there were a little more generic and regional, beyond just one balancing authority. So it wasn't so much that we hear about it from BPA. This was more of a further extending type of a discussion. Those topics included predicting future power supply and transmission needs, how state and federal regulations can impact power supply reliability, energy market impacts, those types of things. There was a panel discussion around where do renewables go when they retire, and this doesn't affect us so much. This is more of big generators, but some of the takeaways from that were the importance of an honest and initial cost-benefit analysis including the cost of disposable equipment. One of the big things was, the blades off of wind turbines and what happens, and solar panels, and, different things from the renewable side of the industry, how those things get depreciated out, and cost comparison when you're trying to look at other sources of energy and entry into the market. Again, a whole lot of things that, because we're a tier 1 customer, don't necessarily really affect us. We're kind of along for the ride. Also, again, the approach of partnering with other entities to share risk should be a major consideration as well if you're looking at generation projects. I attended our special meeting on January 30th to discuss the broadband BEAD grant. Later that day, I had a short meeting with Jennifer Gossett from the State Auditor's Office for a customary Q&A in regard to JPUD risk management as part of their SAO audit. Most of her questions really revolved around, my understanding of how our funds get transferred and, that sort of thing. And if there were any risk to the utility, that I would think were unusual. And I didn't have anything to tell her along anything that I have witnessed or had concern about there. I met with General Manager Street on January 31st. I attended the Jefferson Fire Chiefs meeting on February 2nd. And again, as I said, the county grant writer, Amanda Christofferson, was there, and she spoke about the next round of the grant funding that the county is going after for that CWPP plan, and how that would, the county is looking at using that funding, or maybe, I can't remember if she said using that funding or if she was looking at it through county funds, but they're going to hire another person to work specifically, it sounds like, to work on executing the grants. So their county's adding another person, whether it's part-time, full-time, I can't remember, but so they're looking at doing that. I met with our transition team earlier today on the GM search process, and I will attend PPC on February 5th and 6th. I meet with Kevin Street on February 7th. I will attend the Waputa meetings on February 12th to the 14th. And one other final note here I wanted to bring up is I've also put it on Annette's schedule, because again, those that I'm sure everyone realizes and understands, Annette's retiring, or what's her title?
Executive assistant.
Executive assistant
officer.
So again, she does a lot of our scheduling, for those who don't know. And so I put it on her calendar a long time ago. I will be unavailable for our regular meeting of the week of August 18th to the 23rd. I won't be available that week. So I just want to put on everybody's calendar, if we got something important coming along, that I won't be available for that during that week. So just kind of look that into your scheduling as we look down the road. I don't know if the other commissioners have anything that they've got coming, but with everything we've got going this year, it seems like the more advanced notice we can give staff and everybody on when we'll be here or won't be here, I think that'll probably be helpful. So I'm coming in early, letting you guys know in August I'm going to be gone for a week. And that concludes my report. Any other questions? All right, so where are we at? No further questions for the commissioners. We will move on to item number 7, the consent agenda. All matters listed below on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on those items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Are there any issues with the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second the motion on the consent agenda.
Been moved and seconded to move the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So the consent agenda is accepted. Old business, MRSC resolution and procurement manual.
So I'm going to take this one. Last year with Moss Adams' help, we updated our procurement manual. But as we've gone through the year, and the state of Washington has made some changes. We need to update our procurement manual, but we're also wanting to join the Municipal Research and Services Center of Washington's rosters for our small works roster, and also for our not our vendor roster, excuse me, our consultant roster. I said that wrong. It's the small works roster and consultant rosters, just because of the new, and that's partially due to some of the new state requirements and reporting processes that we have to do that they've put in place that were effective July 1st. So this is a two-step process. We need to update the procurement manual to show that we're going to use the MRSC rosters and update some amounts and stuff in there. The one that's in the packet has all the changes that we're proposing to be made. So just need a motion to approve. We're looking for a motion to approve the procurement manual and then a motion or to approve a resolution to join MRSC's rosters, which does cost us some money, but in the long run, it will save us some time and headaches. And Commissioner Randall, you have a question?
Yeah, Mike, that was my question. There's two items there you listed will cost a little bit of money. I'm assuming it's not that much. I don't know if you have an estimate. And that was my follow-up question is, will it ultimately help us and make things more efficient and better for us? So if you could just kind of quantify the costs and the benefits a little bit.
Yeah, I unfortunately, I don't remember what the cost is. And I was looking at what we had for the last meeting or what the cost for us for the PUD. There's no cost to the contractors as long as they're under 9 agencies. It's based on capital projects. And so depending on, we have to look at our capital projects to join the rosters. But I'm going to say it's probably around a couple thousand a year. I might be off a little bit. And then to do bonfire, depending on the number of seats, we probably only need 1 seat there on bonfires for electronic bidding. It's to make it more secure, so we're not having electronic bids emailed to a person, which technically is a no-no. That's $2,500 for a year. So those do, and then one of the things I don't remember.
Is that bonfire that's
Yeah, that's the
referred in here?
bonfires for the electronic bidding portion of it, because we did, and Kevin, you might be able to help me. I can't remember. We got an accountability audit but item few years ago. I can't remember exactly when we did that, but we got an accountability audit because we weren't reporting who won bids, what the projects were. We weren't reporting that on our website like we were supposed to. And so all that would be done through MRSC for us. We would not have to do that. They would take care of doing the advertisements in the newspapers, things like that. We would still do our own vendor roster, do our own material. This would just be for projects and consultants that are out there.
Okay, so it sounds like the cost for both of them is somewhere around 5,000 per year. It will help us
roughly
comply
5,000.
with best practices and make it easier to respond to requests. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Collins?
Yeah, thank you. Under policies, Roman numeral 5, if you go to section C, subsection 1, subsection A, the wording needs to be adjusted there. It does not read smoothly. And I had another question under moving forward, section C, where it says materials are they excluded from the overall dollar figure where you're determining what the threshold is for different levels of approval?
Yes, I believe that. I had somebody else help. I had Karen Abbott, our contract specialist, help with some of this. So I'm going off of what I understand here, Commissioner Collins. But yeah, what I understand is the laws, some of the regulations and stuff there are for special projects, for the small works rosters, projects, and the materials. There's different approval amounts like that you can do the different levels. So that's what it's kind of spelling out is what the different amounts are. on how things can be done.
Okay, thank you.
And Ken, what was that first reference you said that didn't read right?
Okay. Yeah, so it's Roman numeral 5, policies, under section C, subsection 1, subsection A, where purchases up to $999 $9,999.99. That's been redlined. And if you try to read it from there, there's no reference to saying, oh, okay. It should say up to that figure does not require. It's a little bit disconcerting when you try to read it.
I see what you're talking about there, Commissioner Collins. Yeah, she took out the purchases up to, instead of repeating, she just put the up to 9,999.99, and it says do not require, and it should say does not require formal documentation instead of, which I can get that easily switched.
Okay.
And the takeaway from a lot of these changes was you changed the thresholds lower, basically, correct?
Yeah, change the thresholds lower, a little bit lower, trying to match them up with, because we have to we're looking at both the RCWs and the CFRs because of the federal grants. We have to match both. So we have to look at what is the most stringent one to follow.
And there was some leeway on like equipment.
Yep. And then, within by statutes, we have to define what like material is. So we were at make sure we add that and defined that in there. So that's what we're looking for tonight. Is actually is two steps, but the related here is a motion to update the procurement manual, and then to pass a resolution for us to join the MRSC rosters.
So I had one other quick question before we move on this, and that was, where does that put us with Moss Adams? Is this the only work required from them, or was there more to come on this from Moss Adams, or where
So
we
the
at?
procurement, this part is done. We do have them still working on a few more policies for us. But as far as procurement, this should wrap this up with that portion of it. We've been working on this process for a long time.
So is there any other questions before I make a call here for a motion? Anybody else out there have any questions or curiosities or anything they've noticed about this? All right. So I guess I would ask for a motion to update our procurement manual.
I'll take a shot at it. I make a motion that we approve a resolution on the subjects of establishing a small public works roster and the authority to use the roster process to award small public works contracts, a consultant services roster for general consulting, and other professional services.
So we're doing both.
Second.
Well, again, okay, moved and seconded. Can we do them together?
Well,
It's one, Dan, I'm just reading off the title of the resolution.
Yeah,
So
but this resolution, this is just supposed to be a motion to amend the procurement manual.
So let's double check with Joel to make, Joel, do we need to do a motion to approve the procurement manual first, or can we go ahead and approve the resolution first, or does it matter? Because there's,
Well,
Yeah, 'cause-
I was a little confused how you set this up.
Yeah,
So,
because again, I asked for a motion to update the procurement.
yeah, to update, we don't need a motion to update the procurement manual if you adopt a resolution that updates the procurement manual. Does that answer your question?
well, so Jeff did the,
I think he did the resolution that you want
Correct.
him to adopt that handles changes to the procurement manual, right?
oh, he did it for MRSC rosters to join MRSC.
Yes.
And that,
Okay, that covers.
so what, is that not tied to the actual changes to the procurement manual?
Well, yes,
It appears to be a separate resolution.
Yeah, that's my take, was that we were looking for a motion. What I asked for was a motion to update the procurement manual. And I think we would do a second leg then to accept the resolution. So that's what I'm asking is can.
I will withdraw my motion while you guys figure out
Probably
what you
the
want
best
to do.
idea,
All
yes.
right, I'll withdraw my second.
So let's start
Yeah.
simple
All
one.
right, so start over with a motion to
Update our procurement.
amend and update the procurement manual, consistent.
Move to accept the changes that will update the procurement manual.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we will move on to the staff looking for a recommendation to approve the attached resolution from the packet tonight for the PUD to join MRSC rosters.
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. I did have one or two quick questions on the resolution, and that was in the third whereas. It says to be able to use direct contracting on occasion, the PUD is required to develop a small business utilization plan. And I didn't see that referenced anywhere else. So I'm just making sure that that falls under the title of what we're doing here, or if that would be considered something different. Because we're talking about the small works roster and things like that. So would using the term small business utilization plan still be applicable? Or would that be something different, or is that what we're doing? Sorry to throw the curveball.
So at this point, the PUD staff is recommending we pull this and do a review and bring it back to the board.
Well, I think we were okay on the procurement manual changes. Do you feel?
Manual you've already approved.
Yeah, so does that set an alarm off for anybody? I mean, I'm just asking a simple question here. I'm not.
Not a simple answer though, and we need to do a little review and we want to bring something back to the board in 2 weeks. So, can wait.
Okay, well, then I've got one other quick question on section 3, and that was prior PUD resolutions. It says prior resolution, and this is a fairly common thing. I get this. Prior resolutions or portions thereof that conflict with the content or intent of this resolution shall be considered amended and or repealed so as to avoid conflict with the resolution. My question is, have we done that? Is somebody tasked with doing that? Do we know what other things other resolutions have to be amended? I guess it's, again, a simple question, maybe not such a simple answer. Just to
Well,
make sure follow purposes that we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's on that particular clause.
If I could, Commissioner Tupper, my assumption is that the policy that's before you that shows the red lines in it contains all the changes that are in the procurement manual. Now, are you asking about procurement policies or other policies that may conflict?
It says prior resolutions. That's
Right.
what other resolutions might we have, that be
I
addressed
think the
change we're making tonight.
yeah, I think the intent is prior resolutions approving procurement policies.
Okay, again, there's some clarification.
Yeah,
Just that's written.
that was my understanding of it anyway.
Again, that was my.
So we'll have a chance to discuss this when it comes
Yeah.
up again at a future meeting.
Yeah,
thank you.
So we had a motion on the table. I'll withdraw my motion because it sounds like staff doesn't want us to approve it yet.
Correct.
Withdraw my second.
Okay, so again, just spirit of making sure we've got it right. Where are we at here? So I got to
Well,
get.
I'm sorry, I want to make sure that someone in the room there has recorded the question that Commissioner Tupper had specifically.
Yes, Joel, I have it.
Okay, thank you.
Wait with you and Karen tomorrow.
Okay, any other questions on this MRSC resolution? The procurement manual, we did good. The resolution, we're going to take another stab at.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to broadband construction plan. 8.2, the item number. Are you ready, Will?
I think I'm done, yeah. Or I'm ready. We started.
And I wasn't stalling to help Will.
We appreciate that. This is the kind of the schedule we're looking at, it'll be fine tuned a little bit, but we're hoping that this schedule gives the board an idea of how we're moving forward with some of the broadband timeframes. Take it away, Will.
Okay, so the board has previously received a schedule from Kevin outlining the timeframes, broke it down by tasks within each grant project. I kind of put it up into a color coding so it could be a little easier to see from a distance in meetings like this. The purple project is our Olympic Fiber Corridor project. That is the Olympic Fiber Corridor project and the in-betweens. The two grants that we received, those are one combined projects together. Currently, last week, you approved the aerial construction bid. That gets posted tomorrow. That aerial construction should begin in April. We still have mainline construction, which is the dark purple line that is wrapping up with North Sky. That's all the buried work that will be complete midway through this month. We'll have a little bit of pause of mainline construction from contractors. We'll have our crew working some of the aerial contractor during that time, hence the solid purple bar. Drops, we're mostly doing aerial drops right now with our network technician crew, and we will have some more underground drops before the end of the construction period. We're doing a small amount of installations right now, and those will pick up rapidly as we complete ponds, and they'll continue on through into quarter 3 of this year. We anticipate being done by the end of August with all the installation work, and we have to have the project completed. We cannot draw more funding after November 1st. So that's the ongoing project we have currently. The Discovery Bay East project, Kevin and myself and our staff reviewed the plans this morning. We're finalizing those plans. We're looking at moving to, once we have the finalization of the plans, we should be going out to bid, 2/15. It might be a little bit delayed. Probably be the 1st of March is when we should bring that to the board with the full bid package. And then for construction to start on that with the mainline project in June. And that we're contracting out all construction. So we're contracting aerial and buried and drops for this project. It's a $1 million project, 75 homes. It's a smaller project. We're anticipating mainline to be done by end of August and all of the installation work to be done before the end of the year. The Jefferson North project would follow. Construction would start a little bit later. And again, the installations would kind of tick on a little bit after that. That is over 1,000 total homes. And that includes the areas of Marrowstone, Woodland Hills, and Outer Cape George. So those would be coming up. That one, I don't think we've finalized how much of our line crew we would use. Oh, no, that's not true. We did discuss it. Because we're building throughout the winter, we would contract out the aerial. It's too hard to dedicate the line crew to aerial fiber construction during storm season. So that would be entirely bid out as well. And that project is one of our state funded projects that needs to be completed by summer of 2026. So that is our target date for finishing all installation and drawing all funds. Port Townsend Loan Project is the next one, is our last state project that we have funded through the Public Works Board. Again, similar time frame. We are connecting approximately 200 to 300 businesses here. So we don't have quite the amount, and it's much less miles of fiber. We're starting a little bit later to complete work on those other two projects, and then that work continues on into quarter 3 or wraps up at quarter 3 of 2026. The blue area is Southeast Jefferson, Southeast Jefferson. I have to switch those two around. And we'll be starting engineering. We've been doing engineering work on that project. We're in environmentals. We've just about wrapped up the environmentals, and we'll have some more design engineering. We anticipate bidding in mid-2025 or that's early 2026, and construction Q2 2026. That project is a large one. It's a lot of miles of fiber, about 100 miles of fiber, and it will go all the way through into 2027. If we're awarded the BEAD project, that would start with engineering and design and permitting in late 2026 and take all of 2027. But that's, of course, dependent on getting the award, finalizing the contract, and a lot of steps that we don't have a lot of control over. Any questions on the schedule?
Don't see any hands.
So we wanted to run this by the board first to make sure everybody was aware and make sure we had answered any questions. And then we'll start communicating out this revised construction schedule to all of our registrants in the project areas this week.
Is that it? Is that?
That's
Okay,
for
no,
today.
great. So I guess, again, I'm gonna jump the shark and get a little ahead of the game here. And, this is great start, and this is where we can work some benchmarking and, that type of thing off of this. My question is gonna be this: is there gonna be a second stage of this more on the financial side to kind of match up with this construction schedule, to show potential number of customers, i.e. passings because again, you're not really showing I don't think where you tie into the house in this, or to the what is it? Fiber to the home.
That's the installation.
Is it
That's the last step.
okay, so
Yeah.
it's under installation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that we can kind of match up with the progress of how many customers we're bringing on, what kind of revenue we're generating. This is more of the financial side to match up against the construction side for understanding what our revenue potential is and what our take rate hit is, and really all that in real time.
That will be another step. What we try to do here is take into consideration our cash flow so that we could better manage our cash flow based on how some of these jobs are being staged out. So it took in cash flow. We have not added, okay, we're going to add this many customers this month. That granularity we don't have, but it was designed more for paying contractors and our cash flow with our reserves.
No, like I say it's a great start on the construction side. I'm kind of hoping that we'll see another chart that can harmonize with this by quarter, by, timeline, that, we're understanding we've made so many passings, we had a take rate, how many customers do we have, and what's so we can start to understand what our revenue potential is, whether we're on schedule, behind, or ahead of where we think we should be. Do what you said to match up with cash flow and the cost of the production or the construction that we need to do. So just throwing that out there. I know this is the first step. Any other questions? Silence.
I guess just please keep this updated and run it past us once in a while.
Yes, please.
So does that take us all the way through broadband construction plan?
Correct.
Okay. So with that, I think we are on, there's nothing under new business. That brings us to the end of the meeting, unless there's anything else for the good of the order. Any questions? Any direction that anyone's unclear about? Looks like we're all ready to call it a day. So with that, it is 5:09. Thank everybody for your reports and for being here and doing the good job that you do. It is 5:09, and I'm going to adjourn this regular meeting of the Jefferson County PUD.
Thank you, everybody.
Right.
Have a
Thanks,
good night.
everyone. Appreciate it.